All right. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, starting in 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contain selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Vayishlach Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. Okay, we are on page 183, Parsha Vayishlach, chapter 1. And I'm opening up. Open. All right. Here we go. After 20 years in Haran, Yaakov left to return to Israel with 4 wives, 12 children, and great wealth in the form of animals and servants. The Torah says on him that Hashem said to him when he went to sleep on the way with a dream of the ladder, and Hashem assured him then 8 things, 8 blessings at that time. And Hashem, one of them was Ufaratzta Yama Bakema Vitzfana Banegba, you will burst or you will explode to the west, to the east, north, and south. And then, after 20 years at Lavan, the Torah says, Vayifrotz ha'ish ma'od ma'od, that the man burst or exploded very, very much. So the same word that Hashem used in his blessing or assurance, ufaratzta, that you will explode, and I use that word because it's same. We use it burst because it's same. Ufaratzta, that's pei resh sadi. In English, burst, B-R-S-T. Yeah, I'm not doing the vowels. Okay, I'm showing the similarity between the Hebrew word ufaratzta and the English word burst. So Hashem said to me, "Will burst," and sure enough, he did explode and burst with great, with a large family and great wealth. The night before he encountered his brother Esav, the Torah tells us he took everything across the river, the Yabok River, or the brook. The last items he brought across were small, insignificant pottery jars. It was at that time he was attacked by Sammy, the angel of Esav, and they wrestled. The Arizal will explain that crossing the Yabok is actually a significant milestone in Yaakov's service of Hashem. It's not just a piece of trivia, but the Yabok is very important here. Remind me, in case I forget, you're the big guy. In case I forget, remind me to add something about the Yabok that's not written here. We'll do it after we finish. Okay, so Chachma is the idea or concept at its core without any analysis or development, without developing the concept. It's often described as a lightning bolt that doesn't stick around unless it is adopted by Bina, unless it's taken over by Bina. Then we have this as the core, and every development, every analysis, every question, every explanation is all the Bina that that builds on the core concept, on the Chachma. And in this chapter, the Arizal points out that Chachma actually extends lower than Bina. So we're going to say what happens to this core idea, what happens to this Chachma, and we're going to say that it, in a sense, outlasts the Bina. A moment. All right. Alan, you ready? Can you guys hear Alan?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. He arose that night and took his 2 wives and 2 handmaidens and 11 children and crossed over the Abok River crossing. Here it says 11 children.
Yeah, Ben was born later.
That's a
But
very good
They
question.
don't count Dinah?
No, they didn't count Dinah, and the Medrash explains that they didn't count Dinah because Yaakov hid her from Esav. He hid her in a crate, so she wasn't visible. So that's why the Torah says there are 11.
Okay.
But actually, Dinah was there.
As you know, the mentality of Abba enters the mentality of Ima, and the Yesod of Abba extends further down than the Yesod of Ima. As we've explained, the insight of Chachma is the raw material of Bina and the content that it possesses. Inasmuch as this fundamental insight is the original spark of inspiration, its Yesod, or drive for self-actualization, is greater and extends further than that of Bina.
All right, 4. Together, Chachma and Bina form and influence the mentality of Ze'er Anpin. That's where our intellect or our ability to reason have an effect on how we act. Before Chachma and Bina join to form Ze'er Anpin, they must be fully developed. Ze'er Anpin goes through 3 stages before it matures, or 3 stages of maturing. The embryo, while it's nursing, and then next is the mature stage when it's weaned. This is similar to real life, where a child does not begin to understand how to act logically until he turns 2. I'm not saying that once they're 2, they act logically, but they don't make that connection. They don't begin to understand until they turn 2. That's when parents try to reason with them because they're developed, and of course parents encounter the terrible 2s. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Now, the mentality of Abba does not fully enter the mentality of Ima until the immature mentality is expelled. The purpose of the investment of the mentality of Abba in that of Ima is that they both become transformed into the mental power of Ze'er Anpin. As we know, the purpose of any intellectual insight and the resultant revamping of one's worldview is that this remakes him as a person. And the measure of that is the extent to which his emotional relationship and response to reality is remade. The development of the mentality of Ze'er Anpin, however, progresses through 3 stages: embryonic mentality, nursing mentality, and mature mentality. The progression from one stage to the next is predicated on the displacement of the old mentality by the new one. Yeah, next.
The Yabok River is still there today. It goes by its Arabic name of Zarqa. Rudy, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Nahar Az-Zarqa. Zarqa is Blue River, but they say it's heavily polluted. But it's still there. Okay. Did five. Boy. The undeveloped mentality consists of 3 names Elohim, while the developed mentality consists of 3 names Havaya. It doesn't explain why it's 3. Each name Havaya develops one name Elokim. It's possible that in our discussion here, Havaya corresponds to Chachma and Elokim corresponds to Bina. In fact, I think it seems to, there's a little more evidence for that. What do you mean? Could be all of it. Don't know. Question is what, which undeveloped mentality? The embryonic, the nursing, I don't know.
Well, in the book is, where is it? I saw it. Oh, yeah, I would say the embryonic, the immature.
I prefer the word undeveloped to immature.
Yeah.
So, but they're synonymous.
So with the embryonic nursing, if you're nursing, I'm not sure you're mature yet, but okay.
It says it's not.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Alan. Top of 184.
I'm not hearing anything.
No, I mean,
Sorry. Start
Oh.
over.
The immature mentality is first displaced to the throat. As you know, the immature mentality consists of three names Elokim, while the mature mentality consists of three names Havaya. Each name Havaya rectifies one name Elokim. The name Elokim denotes Tzimtzum, or contracted consciousness. Just as in educating a child, the child can first only assimilate the most superficial aspects of the parent's intellect. So can Zer Anpin at first only accept a contracted version of the mentality of Ima, in which is clothed the mentality of Abba, as we have said. Thus, the manifestation of the three mental powers of Chachma, Bina, and Das in Zer Anpin is in the form of the name Elokim. In contrast, the name Havaya denotes revelation, and therefore the mature mentality is manifest as three names Havaya.
Okay, so constricted, the constricted divine energy is through Elokim, and that's why it's referred to. That's why it's connected with the undeveloped mentality, and the Havaya is revelation and giving, and that's why it's connected with the mature mentality. Okay, exactly what it has to do with the throat, he doesn't explain that here. But what he does say is 6. The level of Chachma, we said, so we talk a lot about Bina. And Bina is really where the Chachma gets developed, analyzed. Talk a lot about Bina and the roles of Bina. On the one hand, it restricts the flow. On the other hand, it allows the flow to be regulated and come out in a regular way, in a way that's tolerable. The level of Chachma, but here we're going to speak more about Chachma and the quality of Chachma. The level of Chachma extends past the intellect of Zer Anpin, even lower than the chest of Zer Anpin. The intellect is in the head, and the chest is the home of the emotions. So it goes even lower than the chest, even lower than the emotions. Since Chachma is higher than Bina, it's able to extend lower. And we come across this quite a bit. The example that's always given, the example is always given that you of a wall. Imagine a stone wall that collapses for whatever reason. The stones that are near the bottom are going to fall nearby. The stones that are higher up on the wall are going to fall farther away. And And the same idea is for divine energy. The higher the source, the lower it can go. Another example, that the example of the wall stones on a wall that fall is one that's given in Chassidus. Another example that may or may not be given is if you have a inexperienced teacher, they are able to explain an idea to a student who is who has more talents and more capability. In order to reach a student who has trouble learning, now you need a special ed teacher. You need someone who's specialized. You need someone with more skills. So the more the teacher's skilled, the greater the teacher is skilled. The more education the teacher has in this field, they're able to reach even the more difficult students, the ones who have trouble, who have learning problems, learning challenges. So this is the idea that the higher the light, the farther it's able to reach. And that's okay. That was 6. Jim, can you continue, please? The Yesod of Abba.
The Yesod of Abba extends beyond both the immature and mature mentality, descending below the level of the chest of Zeranpin. The mature mentality of Zeranpin is vested in its head, while, as we said, its immature mentality has descended to the level of the throat. However, the Yesod of Abba extends further than either state of mentality. The initial insight, although a primary intellectual experience, contains within it an element of consciousness that transcends intellect and therefore is not limited to it.
Okay. All right. And here we have pictures of the Yabok River. I think you're all able to see. So some pictures just of the river itself, and then also where it is on the map. What does it say? Hey, get back up there. I can't see the small print there. Okay, but in any case, so it's there with a different name today. Okay, can you all see the writing, the notes?
Notes, yeah.
No, I don't see it.
Do you see the notes on the screen?
6, 7, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, okay, significance of Yabok. We've spoken about this a few times. I remember mentioning it. So the Torah says that Yaakov got up at night and with his wives and children, and he crossed over Yabok River crossing. And what we're going to show is that Yabok, that Yaakov crossed the Yabok means that Yaakov himself reached a very high level. He was able to cross, to achieve beyond a border of godliness, of spirituality. What is Yabok? The Torah said that before Yaakov crossed Yabok, the Torah said before that Yaakov crossed the Yabok. Yabok means that Chachma and Bina join to extend to Ze'er Anpin. I think maybe I just made that up. Yabok, we're going to find, I guess the idea is that, that Chachma and Bina join to extend to Ze'er Anpin. Yabok, Yud Beis Kuf, is 10 plus 2 plus 100 is 112. Havaya and Elokim are 26 and 86, equal 112. Yaakov achieved this high level and was therefore able to extend lower. As we said before, Chachma extends even lower than it does together with Bina. Okay, Jim, go ahead. Now,
the combined numerical value of Chavaya and Elohim is the same as that of Yabok. And this Yesod of Abba extends further than both. Chavaya Yud He Vav He, 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5, 26. Elohim Aleph Lamed He Yud Mem, 1 plus 30 plus 5 plus 10 plus 40 equals 86. Plus 26 is 112. Yabok Yud Beit Kuf, 10 plus 2, 100 equals 112.
all right. Now, there are actually, there are actually 4 ways to get Yabok 112. And that's what we're going to do next. Number 1, as we said, Havaya is 26, Elohim is 86. Together you get Yabok 112. And I guess it shows the joint that it shows that Havaya and Elohim join together, the Chachma and Bina join together and function as a pair. B, number 2, Havaya is 26. Hashem's name Ekyeh, Aleph Hey, Yud Hey is 21, and Adni is 65. And together they also make Yabok, 112. Jim, read to the bottom of the page.
This then is the mystical meaning of the verse, the Yabok River crossing. After this, the parts of Yaakov issued from this light that was revealed from the Yesod of Abba after it extends outward. This verse refers to him, that is, this Yaakov. As explained elsewhere, the secondary parts of Yaakov develops out of Zeranpin. Know also that there are 4 mystical aspects of Yabok. The combined numerical value of the names Havaya and Elohim, as we said, the combined numerical values of the names Ekyeh, Havaya, and Adi. The numerical value of the name Ekyeh, Aleph He Yud He, 1 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5 is 21. The numerical value of the name Adni, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, is 65. 21 plus 26 plus 65 is 112.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, I'll be the first to say that there are a number of ideas here that are mentioned that I'm not clear on. I'm not sure how what's the connection, but I'm focusing on what we do, on what I can grasp.
There's also something very interesting about the relationship between the Yabok River and Yaakov, right?
Mhm.
The difference being is the letter ayin, right? If you mix up the Yabok and you add an ayin, you get Yaakov.
So Yabok is batting 3 out of 4, 3 for 4.
Right. So
3 of
numerical
the
value,
Hmm?
numerical value of ayin is 70, which is a very significant number, right? 70 elders, 70 nations.
Yeah.
By crossing over, he transformed. He added that ayin, so to speak.
Very good.
Just a thought.
Very good. So I did mention I said that after we're done, remind me to just add something, and it has to do with this, Rudy. That Yabok has 3 out of 4 of the letters of Yaakov.
Mhm.
Okay, so number 3, the third connection. The third connection, we have to start with the square of Havaya. What's the square of Havaya? It's not 26 squared. The square of Havaya means the expanded spelling for the first letter. First of all, we're going to talk in expanded spelling. So Yud is not 10. Yud is Yud. We're taking the name Yud. Yud Vav Dalid, which is 20. Expanded spelling for the first letter 4 times. The second letter 3 times. The third letter 2 times. And the fourth letter once. And that looks like Yud K Vav K. And then Yud K Vav, Yud K, and Yud. It could be we have other names for it. I think this is the same as we talk about Acharayim, the regressive iteration. If it's the same, then it's 2 different ways of getting there. One is doing it through what we call squaring, and one is what we call regressive. And the result might be the same, but I'm not clear on that. Regressive means the first letter plus the first 2 letters plus the first 3 letters plus all 4 letters. Same thing. Okay, you guys hear Alan? Not really? Alan says it's different. No, Alan, it's the same. It's first letter plus the first 2 plus the first 3 plus the first 4. Think of it differently. Are you with me? 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. We have 4 1s, 3 2s, 2 3s, and 1 4. I was confused when we did this 6 years ago, and I figured it out. I remember that. Okay. So that is called the square of Havaya. It means the expanded spelling. I just read that. In expanded spelling, Yud is 20. Hey is Hey Yud is 15. Vav is Vav Aleph. Vav Yud Vav, which is 22. And Hey is 15. What's 18? Let me finish this and I'll go and check yours, okay? Because mine seems to be okay. So it's a total of 184. Subtract 1 of each primary letter, and we say that a primary letter is the first one. So it subtract Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. That's the full primary letter with the expanded spelling. In expanded spelling, and that's 72. And so when 184 minus the 72, because we removed each primary letter, result is Yabok 112. So this is a third way to get to Yabok. Each different way that we get there is a different reason. It's a different explanation, different reason. And exactly why we have all these different ways. What's the difference between this reason and that reason that I can't say. I have no idea, but there are different ways. This is a third way to get there. Okay, Jim, continue. Top of 185.
Numerical value of the square spelling out of the name Havaya is 184. If we subtract 72 from this number, the remainder is 112. Squaring a world in Kabbalah means developing the word from its first letter, progressively adding 1 more letter at each step. Thus, the square of the name Havaya, Yud Hey Vav Hey, would be Yud Hey, Yud Hey Vav, Yud Hey Vav Hey. When these stages are each spelled out using the letter Yud, we have Yud Vav Daled, Yud Vav Daled, Hey Yud, Yud Vav Daled, Hey Yud, Vav Yud Daled. Yud Vav Daled, Hey Yud, Vav Yud, Daled, Hey Yud. Numerically, this translates into 4, parentheses 10 plus 6 plus 4, plus 3, parentheses 5 plus 10.
Yeah, you know that the parentheses are, for anyone who's not sure, that's times. 4 times 10 plus 6 plus 4. Okay, go ahead.
Plus 2 times 6 plus 10 plus 2, 6 plus 1 times 5 plus 10. So that is 420, 420, 315 plus 222 plus 115. 420 is 80, 315 is 45, 2 times 22 is 44, 1 times 15 is 15. The total of 80 plus 45 plus 44 plus 15 is 184. If we subtract the value of the spelling out of the 4 letters of the name Havaya using a letter Yud, that is 72, we are then left with 112.
All right. Why do we subtract the 72? I don't know. Because we have
one
to
of
get
those numbers.
Huh?
One of those now, isn't that one of the names of Hashem?
Yes. So we subtracted the name of Hashem, is what we actually did. We subtracted a Yud, which was 20, and we subtracted a Hey, which is 15. We subtracted a Vav, which is 22. And we subtracted a Hey, which is 15, and we got 112. Okay, that's the third. Now, the fourth is the same thing like the third, but again, we get there a different way. Do the square for the first 3 letters only of Havaya and extended spelling. That means 3 Yuds, and the square means that you do the first one multiple times and the last one only once. Do this, that's 3 Yuds, 2 Heys, and 1 Vav, which is 20 times 3. 3 Yuds is 20 times 3 is 60. 2 Heys are 15 times 2 is 30. And 1 Vav is 22. And we get Yabok. This is the same calculation as number 3, but we arrive at the numbers for different reasons. Before, we went to the square of the name Havaya and then took away a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Yud. A Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. In this case, we didn't square everything. We only squared the first 3 letters. The first 3 letters of Hashem's name imply that it does not include the last Hey, which corresponds to Malchus. It implies that it is divine energy before it extends downward. When you don't know, Malchus is like a little bit already, it's moving on to the next stage. So this is like Hashem's name as it is within itself and not moving on. Now we're up to number 4. Okay. Jim, do number 4 and then the next 3 paragraphs. And I'll stop at 112.
Stop at 112. Okay.
Yeah.
The numerical value of the first three letters of the name Havaya, Yud He Vav, when they are spelled out with the letter Yud in the squared fashion, is 112. The first 3 letters of the name Havaya are the 3 unique letters that spell this name. The final Hey is really a repeat of the first Hey and is therefore, in a certain sense, not considered as much a part of the essence of the name as the first 3 letters. These first 3 letters are therefore, in certain contexts, treated as a divine name by themselves. Psychologically, this would refer to the powers of the soul themselves, Yud, Chachma, He, Bina, Vav, Midot, not considering their expression in the final Hey. The numerical value of the spelling out of the squaring of this 3-letter combination is as follows. Yud, Vav, Daled, Yud, Vav, Daled, Hey, Yud, Yud, Vav, Daled, Hey, Yud, Vav, Yud, Vav. So that's 10 plus 6 plus 4, 10 plus 6 plus 4, 5 plus 10, 10 plus 6 plus 4, 5 plus 10. 6 plus 10 plus 6 is 112.
Okay. So we have the significance of Yabok of 112. What's amazing is that you seem just to have a name of a place, a random place, and here we're making a whole big simus and showing that the name of this river, the fact that Yaakov crossed the river is no small thing, and the name of the river is no small thing, even though it's not even in the land of Israel, and so on. Now, the things with significance, with numbers and words, that is more something that I have an interest in and I'm able to deal with. The rest, the parts, when we get to practical and abstract and objective and so on, I know is not really my strength. It's not dominant by me. And that's what the next thing is. I don't want to underplay it, to downplay what it is. By all means, I'll ask everybody, I'll give over the floor, and you can comment on the rest of the chapter, because I know that some of it see very relevant ideas there. So that what I'm saying is, don't let my lack of great commentary or extensive commentary hold us back from discussing it. Number 9, when the Torah says Yaakov crossed the Yabok, bottom line, it means Yaakov achieved this idea of fully developed mentality of Zer Anpin, the joining of Chacham and Bina, and their influence on the emotions. Yaakov achieved this level, no small thing. Gershon, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the Yabok Brook.
The Yabok Brook is associated with the struggle between good and evil, since it was there that Yaakov wrestled with the angel of Esau, as is described in the following verses. We have now caught a glimpse of what this means in terms of the mystical dynamics of the universe. Although evil can make inroads and attempt to gain a foothold via the intellect, the most dangerous confrontation between good and evil occurs at the level of the emotions. Precisely because the emotions are such a pivotal part of the psyche, it is crucial that the battle be won at this level. Reminds me of Tina Turner. What emotions got to do with it? Okay. This, of course, is because the intellect is by nature more abstract and objective. The more subjective nature of the emotions make them the Jacob's heel, where evil can gain a foothold. At the emotional level, the individual is far more likely to make choices based on what's good for me than what is good objectively. This renders him open to self-centeredness, which diverts his consciousness from Hashem, which is in turn the source of evil. So ego base is, we've been saying that for a while. Thus, we see that Jacob, the progenitor of the Jewish people, does not come into his own as a partsuf until Yesod of Abba. The drive of the initial divine thought or conception of creation traverses the intellect and is able to shine out unshielded and unprocessed by the intellect. It is crucial that the initial insight of Chokhmah become firmly rooted in consciousness via Bina and develop into the mentality of Zer Anpin, precisely because of the struggle that is to ensure once Yesod of Abba proceeds beyond its realm. That struggle, the struggle between Jacob and Esau does not seek to attack Jacob until he has completed his developmental stage of intellectualization of the insight and has emerged from it ready to enter the land of Israel, the land of the 7 pagan nations, or native unrectified emotions, in order to conquer it for holiness. When Jacob originally left the land of Israel, he went to study Torah in the yeshiva of Shemot and Eber. And our sages also tell us that Jacob also studied Torah while tending Laban's flock. Thus, his entire sojourn outside the land of Israel until this point can be envisioned as the process of maturation of the intellect. This having been accomplished, Jacob turns his attention to the land of the emotions, and it is here that Esau, threatened by Jacob's usurpation of its, how you say that, hegemony, how you say that? his
Hegemony.
control, his
Hegemony.
hegemony, yeah, over them.
Hegemony.
Yeah,
Hegemony.
What kind of money?
That's how it's saying in Chicago.
Hegemony.
Hegemony over the emotions. Prepare to do battle with him.
Hegemony.
So I'm thinking, I don't know if any of you have watched videos, like especially the last few weeks with riots or people who are criticizing Israel, talk about free Palestine. There was a vote a few days ago in Cambridge City Council, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And you guys hear of this? Did I send it to James? Jim, I might have sent it to you. I don't remember. There was, I think, a 7-hour debate that the city of Cambridge should withdraw their funds from any company that does business with Israel or invest in Israel. They wanted to use, I guess they're targeting especially Hewlett Packard. And it was a 7-hour debate in Cambridge, Massachusetts, believe it or not. And the city council in the end voted, voted not to divest from Israel. But the lies, the hate, that are spewed against Israel are not rational. They talk about apartheid. They talk about Israel killing civilians indiscriminately. No mention of how many, no mention of any atrocities by Hamas. No mention of the rockets shot by Hamas that killed Palestinian kids or knocked out the power station. You guys all saw that. The Hamas knocked out the Gaza power station, and so no mention. There's just, they've done it before. Yeah. So these things, they're total emotion, and there's no logic, no rationality, no logic.
I don't agree. I think it comes out of emotion, but it uses rational argumentation, not necessarily the most rational, but rational argumentation to get its point across, and then that further incites the emotions. So it becomes as if the emotions usurp the intellectual process, and they use the intellectual process to further incite the emotional process. So there's a real lack of what's here, which is really which is beautiful, is that the more subjective the nature of the emotions, evil can gain a foothold. As the emotional level, the individual is far likely to make choices based on what's good for me than what's good objectively. This renders them open to self-centeredness, diverses consciousness from God, which is in turn the source of evil. So what happens is people buy into this emotional pleasure. There's a pleasure, almost a pleasure about it. And they use that to become intellectually justified in that pleasure. If we have the other piece here, top down, which is what Yaakov reached, where we have Abba coming and transcending down and affecting Bina and bringing itself all the way down to the emotions and bringing Bina with it into the emotions, then we have a flow that can become objective. But if we deal with the most processing is this pleasurableness, a real pleasurableness, and this happens with these crazy belief systems. That's of where these emotions get almost a self-justification, and horrible things are done to others in that light.
Going back to Jacob,
So
I
we-
thought
we-
that. So remember we talked about Rachel and Leah, and Rachel was the action, and Leah was the thought, or something like that, the speech and the thought. So I thought the process was going from down to up, from kind of bringing the emotions to the intellect. But what we're talking today is bringing the intellect down to the emotions, maybe to control the emotions. So
I had the same question.
yeah,
Usually we talk about bringing down.
yeah.
And last week we talked, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about raising up. I don't know why.
it's a sweetening. It's all if we touch essence, everything gets sweetened. It gets sweetened, and you keep it flowing all the way down. Evil has a I keep saying a pleasurableness, a sensuality to itself, a self-gratification process that continues to justify its own existence.
Would
And
you call
it's-
that logic?
There's a logic to it. There's a logic to it, and it uses logic. It uses logic, and not necessarily ultimately develop logic, but some logic. It uses logic.
Because it
It'll-
says
it'll
it feels
say-
good. It feels good.
It
So it feels good. I
feels
should
good.
do it.
It'll say, okay, the IDF was attacking Al-Aqsa. Boom. And because they're attacking Al-Aqsa, which had never happened, but they're attacking Al-Aqsa, boom. It's justified as a matter of preserving the religious practices, etc., against the Jews. Boom. People buy this nonsense, and they enjoy it, and they enjoy the pleasure of it. It's a self-justification. It happens in politics. People have these belief systems, and they hold it as a pleasurable experience without thinking out of the box.
Being right, self-righteousness might feel
Yeah,
good.
self-righteousness, self-justifications, all kinds of things.
It's called drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, drinking your Kool-Aid, Rudy. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's pleasurable. There's a pleasurableness. There's a sensuality to it.
It starts. Look, you really capture somebody by the issuance of an allure, right? There has to be an allure backed up by some intellectualization.
Yeah.
If you can manifest that, then you've got that person. You've grabbed them. You got
him.
You got him.
Yeah, you got him.
And that's the nachash.
Yeah.
The
So it's like an intellectual honey trap.
Yeah.
And it's easy.
The nachash used sensuality with Chava.
Yeah.
And it used a rationalization, misleading the statement of Hashem.
Yeah.
And it appealed to her. And then the next thing you know, there you go.
Well,
So
here we have Yaakov wrestling with Sammy, okay, to be able to go beyond the process. And he does. Same Sammy.
So yes, thank you also. Yeah, go ahead, Rudy.
No, I was just going to say that, we sit here and we talk about all the world events like we're surprised, like things suddenly are unique. Nothing is unique. I mean, Shlomo Amelech said nothing is new under the sun, right? It's just the faces and the places change. Human nature is the same. There's a certain level of outrage. And I think where we fail are those people amongst us that have a tendency of turning the other cheek. As long as it doesn't bother me and my Dalit Amos, it's okay. It'll repair itself. That's what I find so atrocious.
Yeah.
So what he says here, and another interesting thing that he mentioned, I just want to repeat, that until now, Yaakov was engaged in dealing with intellect or mentality. But now that this was complete, now he needs to deal with emotions. Once he starts with emotions, that's when Esav shows up. So that in intellect, in other words, this we have this in Chassidus, that if you're honest, if you're objective, then determining what's right and what's wrong is usually not so complicated. But it's when you got to act on it. It's where the emotions play in. Then it gets personal. And
Exactly.
you can study for years the effects of let's say of smoking, okay, and you might not and you might do very well with it, but when it comes to you yourself, quitting the habit, you say, hold on a minute, now you're getting personal. So it becomes much harder when something is when that's the emotional component. That's where Asav steps in, and that's when the trouble happens, and the struggle, and you're faced with the struggle. So we mentioned before the Yabok, and Rudy mentioned that it's pointed out three letters of the name Yaakov. So, and I have mentioned this before in our class, but the perhaps the letter that represents holiness is the letter Kuf. Kuf is 100, which the Beis Hamikdash was 100 amos high. The letter, which is the biggest problem at the letter Yud, the letter Ayin of Yaakov. The Ayin stands for the word Av. Av means cloudy, murky, unclear, and Yaakov, Esav himself, is seeking to minimize the Kuf. He wants it to be left with the without the holiness, and we have the word Yud Ayin Beis, which is Ya'iv. In the Eicha on Tisha B'Av, we read Eicha Ya'iv Apo, that Hashem's anger clouded up. So without the Kuf, without the holiness, then we're playing up the anger of Hashem. And Yaakov seeks to minimize the Ayin, which is this cloudiness and murkiness, and
the first letter of Esav's name.
Yes, and then we're left with this idea of Yabok, which has those different things that we learned. It's Havaya plus Elokim, 26 and 86, and Yabok is also Havaya, Adni, and Ekia, three names of Hashem. 26, 21, and 65, they give us 112. So Yabok is a very high level. We also, this is why we say in the Tillim at the end of chapter 20, Hashem Hoshia, Hamelech Ya'anenu V'yom Karenu.
Yep.
The initial letters of Ya'anenu V'yom Karenu, he answers us on the day we call, is Yud, Vez, Kuf, Yabok. So Hashem answers us on the day we call, but the ayin isn't Kon. The ayin is also there. The word Ya'anenu, it's the second letter of Ya'anenu. So the ayin is still there in second place. Yud ayin Kuf and Beis, spelling Yaakov.
Beautiful.
So there we have the different things of more significance to Yabok and what it means to have Yaakov, but without the ayin. That's like without the interference of Esav, one way, or accusation.
Beautiful.
Of Esav. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Beautiful.
nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaim.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
We should be on next Tuesday.
Have a good evening.
Take
Bye,
care.
Gesund.
Good night.
You're well.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.